China has once again reignited the Arunachal Pradesh dispute, this time over the detention of an Indian woman, Pema Wangjom Thongdok, at Shanghai airport. Her Indian passport listed Arunachal Pradesh as her birthplace, and that was enough for Chinese authorities to question her identity. The moment India lodged its protest, Beijing doubled down, repeating its old line that it has never recognized Arunachal Pradesh, which it calls South Tibet.
First of all, Zangnan is Chinese territory and China has never recognized the so-called Arunachal Pradesh illegally established by India. As for the individual case you mentioned, according to my understanding, during the handling of the process, China's border inspection authorities have always performed inspection procedures in accordance with laws and regulations, enforced the law impartially and civilly, fully protected legitimate rights and interests of persons involved. There was no so-called detention, harassment or other situations. The airline also provided the person with food and rest.
But this latest provocation doesn't just target an Indian citizen. It reopens an old wound in India-China relations. And it raises an important question. Is China shifting back to a more hardline approach, reversing the Deng Xiaoping era attempt to stabilize ties? To understand the dispute, it's worth briefly revisiting the geography. Arunachal Pradesh sits along India's eastern sector of the 3,440 kilometers line of actual control. The border here is demarcated by the McMahon Line, a boundary drawn in 1914 during the Shimla Convention between British India and Tibet. China doesn't recognize the McMahon Line because it claims Tibet didn't have the authority to sign treaties. India, however, treats it as a legitimate internationally accepted border. What China ignores deliberately is history. Ancient Tibetan texts refer to the eastern parts of Arunachal as Lhoyu, inhabited by Lobha people. The western districts of Tawang and West Kameng were known as Monyul. These areas had cultural and monastic exchanges with Tibet, but there was no Chinese administrative or ethnic footprint. No Han settlers, no Chinese governance, no imperial records showing Beijing's authority here. In fact, the region was governed as the Northeast Frontier Agency under India from 1954, renamed Arunachal Pradesh in 1972 and granted full statehood in 1987 under the government of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. India's political, administrative and legal control has been continuous and undisputed on the ground. China's objections today mostly revolve around Tawang. It sees the famous Tawang monastery, the world's second largest and central to Tibetan Buddhism, as symbolically valuable. That's why Beijing objects every time the Dalai Lama visits. But symbolism is not sovereignty. India has repeatedly made its position clear. When Prime Minister McMahon Singh met Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao in 2009, he reaffirmed that Tawang and all of Arunachal Pradesh is an integral and inalienable part of India. Even when Chinese troops intruded in 2017, New Delhi stayed firm. Every government since independence has treated the state as Indian territory without compromise. So, is China's claim over Arunachal Pradesh justifiable? No, not historically, not culturally, not legally, and certainly not politically. China's South Tibet narrative is a manufactured claim, not a legitimate one. What the recent incident shows is that Beijing continues to weaponize the border dispute when convenient, even if it means harassing an ordinary Indian citizen. And each time it does so, the historical record only strengthens India's case. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.